Alright, hey, what's up YouTube? So today we're going to be taking a look at this video, which a lot of people on Twitter actually requested me to translate. Here's the tweet. This is by Kushina, a really strong Sagat player here in Japan. This is his first fighting game. He didn't really play fighting games before this. I think he was a Valorant player before. And he went from like around 1400 MR, where he was a little bit hard stuck, all the way to Legend 12th place, 2340 MR, all by practicing by himself. Nobody really taught him too much. This was all from self-study. That's what this title says. How to improve through self-study. But before we start the video, number one, when it comes to people talking about how they're learning or how they're improving, I want you to remember that the way someone learns or the way someone improves isn't always going to work for you. Just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's like the only way and the best way. It's kind of like, you know, when people go on a diet, they're like, oh, this diet worked for me, or like I tried that diet but I gained weight or whatever. You have to figure out how you learn and what helps you learn effectively. So just because this player was able to get to like legend rank using this technique doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work for you too, but it could. And also everybody, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a lot and lets me make more videos like this. But with that over with, let's get right into the video. Let's just look at level 1 for now. So level 1 is what he used to get into like around 1600, like all the way from like 1400 MR to 1600 MR. And this at the top, this says things that I did or things that I practiced. All right, and this thing here says this applies to all MR levels, like all MR ranges, but as he gets into this video and he talks about it more, he says that he did level 1 up until 1600, level 2 above 1619, and then like level 3 from above 2000 MR. Let's go through this real quick. He's going to give some examples, but let me just read this for you. Number one thing you got to practice at like the 1600 MR level or before that is knowing your best combos, especially like punish combos against like blocked like Shoryukens or blocked supers. Picking the best combos, that kind of practice. Watching strong players' streams and replays. Don't go into burnout. All right, this is kind of like a Japanese thing. Like I know the big meme is like Noah the Prodigy, burn yourself out 7 times in 6 seconds. But in Japan, generally the meta is considered to be burning out is bad. All right, there are times when burning out can be good, but according to him, number one, when you're in 1600 MR, don't burn yourself out is kind of like what he's focusing on. Next, after don't burn yourself out is absolutely always anti-air. But he has this thing in brackets. This is in the front, so he's not talking about cross-up situations where people like cross you up and you have to cross-cut DP. He's talking about just regular anti-airs from people jumping in front of you. Next is don't rely on invulnerable moves. He goes, you won't improve this way. This one's a little bit difficult. This one here, I'm going to skip this one for now because it's going to help if he explains it in context. I can read this to you and translate it, but I'm going to skip this one for now, so let's go to the next one. Understand everything about how to use training mode. Next. This one's really important. Don't fight using feelings, fight using your brain. I like that. Or he doesn't say brains, it's use your head. So don't get emotional, actually think. He's gonna explain this a little bit more. He says something interesting about this in a second, but I'm just gonna go through each point really briefly. Understand simple reads, like how to make simple reads both on your end and from your opponent's end. Understand the basic way of how making reads or yomi works in this game. I'm going to skip this one too. I'll come back to this in a sec. Then next is don't walk carelessly into crouching medium kick or things like crouching medium kick. He says lows, but don't walk carelessly into the range of lows. The next point is against things that you can see and react to with parry, like fireballs or like slow startup moves, like really try to parry things on reaction that you can. And last, don't get hit by impacts and overheads too much. All right, so now I skipped a couple in this level 1. Let's listen to his explanation because he goes through each one here. So he's going to give some examples and go through it. I'm going to skip through some of the less important points, but let's just go through it.
やってることの違いっていうのは絶対に配信を見たりリプレイを見るだけでたくさんあるはずなので、全てメモでも何でもいいので書き出してください。
But he's talking about this point here. He says, please watch strong players play. He goes, you can watch their live streams, you can watch YouTube videos, you can watch replays, whether it's like on YouTube or inside Street Fighter 6 itself. And I made videos about how to do that in the past. But just watch strong players and make a memo of what they do and why it's strong. He goes, if you compare your replays to the replays of strong players, you'll definitely see some differences and you'll understand like some different patterns that they're using and things they're doing that you are not doing. And he says, if you watch them and you make a memo, make it like he says, anything is fine. He goes, you can write it down, you can make a mental note, whatever. Just make some kind of memo about what they're doing as you're watching their replays or their streams. And remember what they're doing, why you think it's strong, and how and when they're using it in their matches. And if you can copy that, you'll get much better.
自分がやってないコンボを全て見て、それをトレモで実践して、状況が良かったり、
Alright, so now here he says something I think is really important. I want you guys to remember. So he's talking about when he was stuck in the 1400 to just below 1600 range when he was learning this game. He said he would watch a lot of strong players play, and he wouldn't just watch their combos. It's like, of course he's trying to watch their combos, see which combos they're doing, but he's also trying to take a mental note of which combos they're doing and in what situations. Why did they choose that combo in that situation? He says it's important to think about that. You don't have to understand exactly why. You don't need to have the right answer all the time, but you do need to start thinking about why did they use that combo in that situation.
MR1400 でも1300でも1200でもダイヤ帯でもプラチナでも対空表だけは攻めて絶対出してください。
Okay, because this goes for any rank. It doesn't matter if you're platinum, doesn't matter if you're diamond, doesn't matter if you're like legend rank. If someone jumps at you in front in a range where you can anti-air, absolutely anti-air them. Practice your anti-airs. He's really hammering this in. Now, this might be because he plays Sagat, and Sagat gets really high reward from anti-airs. Kushina is really focusing on you gotta anti-air. So just his opinion. Okay, so he's showing you how his recommended way of practicing anti-airs. So here, this is in Japanese. You guys might not be able to understand it, but this is forward jump, neutral jump, and this is throw. Okay, he says, I'm doing this example with the character that has a Shoryuken, so if you don't have a Shoryuken, you'll have to do something different. Okay, yeah, so you put your opponent to the corner, you get a knockdown, like either off a throw or like a knockdown with good Oki, and you get a meaty throw situation. And I'm sure this has happened to you guys before, where you try to throw them, or you try to like walk back to shimmy, and your opponent neutral jumps or forward jumps, either in the corner or mid-screen. Well, he's saying in these situations, you gotta practice this and you gotta absolutely anti-air them. And then he says, yeah, if they neutral jump, you anti-air them. But he's playing Sagat, so he does this DP and it whiffs, and he's kind of like, what? Any player who's played Sagat knows this feeling. Then if they whiff the throw, you whiff punish it. By practicing like this, you're able to get reward no matter what the opponent does on defense in those situations. Now, he's showing it with a Shoryuken character. I'm going to show you guys what to do if you don't have a Shoryuken. I'm going to show you how to do this with M. Bison. I've been learning this character lately, and he does not have an anti-air DP, so you have to rely on normals to anti-air opponents if they're jumping. Just to make this a little bit easier for me to record, I'm going to do just vertical jump and normal throw for now. But when you guys are practicing this, you can do it with all three. So what you would do is you would do something like a knockdown that leaves you in a good situation. And then here, in this kind of situation, you would want to practice the anti-air. Now, the thing is, let's say you go like this. You're looking for a shimmy. Whiff punish the shimmy. But the idea would be something like this. I'm whiff punishing the throw on reaction. And then if they jump, I go for the anti-air. I'm not doing the full combo just to keep this a little bit short, but you get the idea. So you'd want to practice this. Or if you're doing a situation where you can get like a meaty throw, something like this, you dash forward. There, teched it. I'm +2 here. Second again, please jump. Sometimes opponents will do this, they'll jump. There. You gotta have the reaction anti-air ready. Alright, so he's saying practice these kind of situations. It's really helpful. Let's go back to the video. Okay, he goes to the next one. He goes, this next point is really important. Okay, so this point is like, don't put off or don't forget to check things that happened in a match that you thought was kind of strange or kind of like weird, something you didn't understand. So basically, if somebody hits you with like a frame, like I'll give you an easy example that he doesn't talk about, but let's say somebody hits you with like a frame trap or a space trap or like a meaty setup that you haven't seen before, don't just be like, oh, okay, he got me, and then move on to your next rank match or something. He goes, no, go check your replay, understand what happened, understand why that option beat you, understand the things that you haven't seen before, and really learn about how they work. He says, don't just keep moving on. He says, I think this is something a lot of people do. And he goes, if you're not constantly checking things that beat you and why they beat you or things you didn't understand that happened in a match, and you just move on to your next rank match without checking, he goes, you are not going to improve. He goes, you will not become a better player. He says, please don't make that mistake of just always keep on going on without checking what happened. He goes, check the things you don't understand. Yeah, I love this thing from him. He goes, there are going to be lots of times when you're playing, when you're doing rank match, and you get kind of pissed off and you just go, like, you're just kind of frustrated and you just go into the next match. He goes, but that kind of play style, he goes, that you're not doing it for yourself. He goes, there's no value to you as a player and to get better. He goes, if you're trying to actually get better, just like mashing on rematch and rank match after a set when you lose, or in something that you don't understand happens, he goes, all you're doing there is you're just playing rank match. And he doesn't say this, but I think this is where the kind of whole philosophy of his thing really shines through. When he's playing rank match, he's not playing rank match just to get points. He's not playing rank match just to play the game. He's doing it from a play to learn, play to become a better player perspective. He's using rank match as a tool for improvement. So I think what he's trying to say here is play ranked to get info for learning, learn the things you didn't understand, then go back to it again. Don't just use rank match to play rank match. If you are focused on becoming a better player, if you're just playing ranked to have fun and to just like slap some buttons or whatever, that's cool. But according to him, no. Chishiki is power. So knowledge is power. And I love this. Okay, next is like understand everything about how to use training mode. He goes, this is truly important. He goes, this is the first thing I want you to learn. He's like, how to use training mode. He goes, it's that important. Okay, he says, this next point here, this one here. Don't fight using your feelings, fight using your head. Yeah, he goes, it happens to me too. Sometimes I fight with my feelings without thinking, but he goes, it's not good to do it like that. Yeah, I love this. He keeps on using this phrase. He goes, he says, if you play using your feelings and when without thinking, it was you're not playing for your own improvement. He says, if you want to become a strong player, don't play with your feelings, use your head. He says, play to learn. He goes, learn by playing, learn through training mode, and then do that. He goes, learn by playing is what he says. Yeah, he says, try like an easy example of what you should do. He goes, try to think of what happened in the match before. Understand like the flow of the match. I try to understand the key points and then use that knowledge for the next match rather than just fighting with your feelings. A really easy example there. He says, if you fight using your feelings, what tends to happen, at least for him, is you won't understand, like you won't remember why you lost in the previous match or what exactly happened during the flow of that previous match. But if you fight using your head and you're trying to always remember what happened in the match, then it's easier to remember the key points or like why you lost in the match before and then use that information to make better choices the next time. And now he's talking about understanding basic yomi, like reads. Okay, so understand like basic mix. In Japanese, there's something called taku. Taku is mix. Like, you guys know, like, you ever heard nitaku? I'm sure you guys know nitaku. If you play Virtua Fighter, you've heard nitaku before, for sure. Nitaku just means 50-50 mix. And then there's also santaku. Santaku is like strike, throw, shimmy, right? He goes, understand that. Let's say you knock down your opponent. How do you set up your mix after knocking down your opponent? Or after you get knocked down, how can your opponent pressure you? What kind of like three-way mix, like santaku, right? How can they apply strike, throw, shimmy? And then also the reads you can do against each strong option from your opponent. If you understand that, that's good for the level 1, in his opinion. So the example he gives, let's say you knock down your opponent, right? And they really often wake up with something like an invulnerable move. Where's the DP? Here we go. You knock down your opponent, you go to pressure them, they're always waking up with DP, right? This is a really simple example. They're not always going to wake up with the same thing, but just bear with me here. He says the most important thing that you have to think about is when you're trying to understand basic, like yomi, basic reads, think about what can I do to get the biggest return off of what I think they're going to do against my mix. So obviously, if I think they're going to do a DP, good return would not be to like whiff a DI. Good return would be to shimmy and then block because you can get a big punish, right? This is like a really easy example. I think everybody understands. But even here, the simple fact that you chose to shimmy here is strong because if they wake up with DP or throw, you can block the DP and you can whiff punish the throw on reaction. So that's a really strong read to make on your part to go for the shimmy here because you're going to get the highest reward possible that covers several of your opponent's most common actions there. So he says really try to understand that part of gameplay when you're understanding the whole read yomi game at a basic level of Street Fighter 6. Okay, he says this one, pushing parry on reaction against moves that are reactable. He says doesn't have to be perfect parry. He says just a parry in general. Even stuff like fireballs or when you're fighting against a character like Marissa or like Ryu, somebody who's really good at burning you out. He goes, you don't have to get those perfect parries. That doesn't matter. The only thing is you're pushing parry to avoid burnout. And as you get better and as you kind of practice that, you'll start to get more perfect parries. But in the beginning, just focus on pushing parry when you can react to something. Yeah, he says if you get hit by too many drive impacts and too many overheads, he says you will definitely not be able to win in this game. So really focus on trying not to get hit by those as much as possible. Okay, so now we're finished the level 1. So now he's going to move on to the level 2, which is going to be a different MR range. Okay, so he goes, for this thing, he goes, some people might look at this when you're trying to like become 1600 to 2000 MR and you go, oh wow, this is difficult, this is really hard. He goes, but yeah, you have to be able to practice it. Then also, you don't necessarily need to do anything in order. You can just pick something that you think you're really weak at or something that you want to get better at and then just knock it off from there. And he goes, just pick one thing, get better at that, knock it off your list, and then move on to something else. You don't have to necessarily go in order. This isn't the number one most important. This isn't the second most important. This is all just stuff he practiced at this range. And he goes, just pick one, knock it off, move on to the next. This is a big one in Japanese play, and like the way Japanese players think. This word here. This says riisaru handan. Lethal decision. Basically, in Japan, anytime you can KO your opponent with a combo using any amount of resources, they call it lethal, which basically means guaranteed win. If you hit your opponent and you choose the right combo, you get a guaranteed win. And he says being able to do those combos in guaranteed win situations is really important. He said it's so important that this alone will determine the outcome of whether you win or whether you lose.
ガードさせて相手のドライブゲージを割る。
Okay, so he's saying the next point here is put your opponent into burnout situations. And the thing he says is really important is it's not like, oh, my opponent is using too much drive rush or my opponent is using too much meter and I just kind of happen to get them into burnout and then take advantage of the situation then. No, it's understanding when you can create situations that really puts the pressure of being burnout onto your opponent. You kind of want to shift your game plan from like your regular game to more focusing on like, okay, now I'm going to burn them out, or I'm going to make them think I'm going to burn them out and then cause them to do something bad because they're panicking to get out of that situation. He goes, that's really important. And he says this is just as about important as choosing combos that give you guaranteed KO situations in his opinion. All right, next point. Understand how your opponent is moving, understand what they want to do, and adapt to their playstyle. Things like people are using like lots of like neutral drive rush. If you can't stuff it, you're going to have a really hard time, that kind of stuff. He goes, once you're at the 1600 to 2000 MR level, understanding and being able to counter your opponent's playstyle or what your opponent wants to do is really important. Okay, and now he says the most important thing, which I think is really good. So he's saying here for this, and this is a really big thing in terms of like, how can I say, read theory. If you guys ever listen to like Virtual Fighter players talk or like high-level Street Fighter players talk, they always talk about reward, like risk versus reward. So let me give you a really, really easy example. I think I made a YouTube video about this a long time ago, but there was this thing I was watching with Fudo. This is like back in like season 1. And he was always saying, if you always go for easy options, you're always going to get low reward. So let's do a really easy example here, okay? Let's say I'm fighting against Juri, and I think Juri is going to do neutral drive rush, standing medium punch. And I'm playing Guile. It's really easy for me, as a Guile player, if I'm just holding down back, to react to drive rush with flash kick. But what reward do I get here? Well, I get 1,800 damage, which isn't a ton. So I don't get a ton of damage, and I also use 2 bars of drive rush. Meanwhile, if I go for something more difficult, not only do I get almost, well, not double, but like 1.5 times the damage, and I save my drive meter. Now I'm doing something more difficult and I'm getting more reward. So what he's talking about in the video here is, don't just choose things that can beat something. Choose something that gives you the highest return when you're trying to counter your opponent's playstyle. Okay, so he goes for him. Until he got to about 1800 MR, he wasn't very good at doing cross-cut anti-airs. You know, like cross-cut DP, he plays Sagat. So you have to do like cross-cut or you have to do like jump back button. He goes, but for him personally, until he got to 1800 MR, he was pretty weak at doing cross-cut stuff. He goes, but once you kind of get to that level, he says, thinks it's really important to be able to anti-air people who cross you up. All right, so I got a great question, a great comment here. Someone says, the problem with anti-air for me is the mental stack of having to choose which option I'm going to use depending on the situation. Now, I think that's something we all struggle with, myself included. But again, kind of piggybacking off of this video, we can use training mode to kind of fix that. Because in training mode, we can create mental stack. So how can we create mental stack? Well, basically you just record a pattern from your opponent or a series of patterns, and then you can kind of try to make it. Okay, Jerry's going to do that. Then next time in slot 2, this is just a quick example of what you guys can do, all right? Okay, here we go. We got 3 different recordings. So what you're going to do is turn on all 3 of those, and you're going to try to defend against this. And this is kind of similar to like what happens in a real match, right? If you see the walk forward, you can either go for a throw tech, or if you see the walk forward, you can try to push a button, or you can do something like commit to a fuzzy jab, which will beat the walk-in throw. It'll let you block this attack, and if you're good, you can also anti-air, which I can't do because I don't play DP characters, but there we go. That's the idea. It happens in a real match, you won't be so flustered because you've practiced that exact situation. Okay, yeah, so the next point he's talking about in level 1 is understand basic Yomi, basic reads, and he goes, now understand deep reads, like level 1, level 2, level 3 Yomi, like understand it. And he's talking specifically about when you get knocked down and when you knock down your opponent. So basically like Oki situations, right? So he goes, he's not talking just about Oki situation. He goes like Yomi and reads against everything, like based on your how much drive gauge you and your opponent have, how much health you and your opponent have, how much super art meter you and your opponent have, like really, really deep reads using every aspect of the game, not just, oh, I think he's going to wake up DP. Why? Like using more information, like, oh, he has this much health, this much drive meter, therefore I think he's going to go for option A or B, so I'm going to go for option C. So now he's going to explain his theory about how to think about drive meter, health, and super meter. He says, so example, he says, here's our example here. He's the Sagat player. He's got Akuma, Goki for my Asian friends out there, and he's got about 50% health with 1 bar of drive meter. Sagat has less than 50% health. This is maybe about 40 with full drive meter, 3 bars of super, and maybe you can't see it because I'm in the way, but Akuma's got 3 bars of super here too. Okay, so you knock your opponent down, you get an Oki situation off of a throw. Now you're going to drive rush and go for standing medium punch.
もちろん別に悪くない選択ではあるんですけど、
Doing this, medium punch, medium punch.
パリ押さなかったり SA パナさなかったらドライブゲージって削れるし。
So he goes, this option here, according to him, it's not a bad option. He goes, if your opponent doesn't do perfect parry or doesn't wake up with a super or an invulnerable DP, then it's good because you can pressure your opponent. You're going to start to chip away at their drive gauge with this option. But
有利にはなるんですけど、向こうの気持ちを考えるとめちゃめちゃパリ押したい。
he goes, but in this kind of situation, if you think about your opponent, the opponent really wants to push something like parry here. Because if you do drive rush medium punch, parry's a really good option against that. You can totally change the situation. You can put Sagat in the corner with the punish, with the parry throw and stuff like that. It's just really good. So your opponent probably wants to parry here is what he's saying. And your opponent's also thinking he has to get an opportunity to let his level 3 rip so he can get his drive meter back. And you can do that off of parry as well.
こういうドライブゲージの状況は様子見が一番悪いのかな。
Okay, in his opinion, in this kind of a situation, doing a wait and see approach is the best choice you can make in this kind of a situation, according to him. That's his way of thinking. Okay, so in that kind of situation, by doing a more wait and see approach, you're not really getting any like direct reward right away. You're not necessarily beating anything they're doing because you're just doing drive rush block into nothing. He says, but what you can do in that situation by going for a wait and see approach is you can maintain your opponent's disadvantage. And their disadvantage is having low drive meter in the corner against you with full drive meter and full super. He says doing that kind of a read is really important. So he's getting really deep into this with this example, and I really love this. But just so you guys understand, I'm going to try to keep this short. That's what he's going for. Okay, let's keep on moving. Next, we're talking about how to play the neutral game. He goes, this is really hard to explain. He goes, if I have to explain how to play neutral in this video, it's going to take me like hours to do. He says, I'm not going to explain it deeply at all. Okay, this is like a topic for a whole nother video. I'm going to omit this because my video is going to get even longer if I have to translate this too. But you know, like pokes, counter pokes, whiff punishes, that kind of stuff. That's what he's talking about. Okay, next he's talking about how to use your lights. And he goes, this is really difficult to understand on this point. Understand how to use your lights. So I'm going to also skip this point because again, kind of like how to play the neutral game and how to like use your normals. This is a huge topic and I don't think it's kind of going to be helpful for this translation video, but just understand that he thinks knowing how to use your lights is really important. Okay, let's keep going. This one's easy. Learn the DP option select against drive rush. I'm not going to expand on this one too much. I think everybody watching my videos probably knows what this is. If you don't know what this is, just search like options, DP option select drive rush. Next important thing is understanding, like get a sense of when you should jump forward out of the corner. And this is like, you know, when people are doing like throw loops to you, kind of getting a sense for like, okay, I think they're going to go for a throw here, so I'm going to forward jump out of the corner. So getting that feeling is like getting that sense of when you should and when you shouldn't do it is really important. Next, this is kind of cut off by the YouTube thing here. Hopefully it disappears soon. He goes, you have to practice simple hit confirms and not just hit confirms, but also counter hit and like punish counter hit confirms. And somebody in chat was asking me about that. We're gonna go, and he talks about this, but I'll just show you really quickly what he means by that. I think we all know how to do hit confirm training by this point in Street Fighter 6's life, but I think something a lot of people spend maybe not so much time on is hit confirming counter hit versus punish counter, which I think is really fun. And I'm going to show you a really common thing. So for example, let's say you're here at this range with your opponent and you do back heavy kick. Okay, this is +4 on hit. So a really easy, really basic combo I can do in this situation is like back heavy kick. This combos into crouching light punch because this is +4 on hit. And I can go like this. This gives me 2,180 damage. Pretty good, right? Nothing crazy, but pretty good. But if I get a counter hit in this situation, instead of being +4, I'm +6. Now Bison has a 6-frame crouching medium punch, which means I can go for this combo, which is 2,680 damage. Or if I really want to do more, I can do like drive rush. Or for the most reward, I can now link into his OD knee press, which I can't do here. Off crouching light punch. That doesn't work on regular hit. It has to be a medium attack. So you can actually practice this kind of hit confirming. If you go here and you go block all, or sorry, if you go block on first hit and you go counter, you can actually choose random options. You can go here. You can turn punish counter off because you're probably not going to get a punish counter point blank at your opponent. And you can set how often you get a normal hit versus a counter. I think in the beginning when you're just practicing this, you can set it at a 50% ratio, like a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'll get normal hits 50% of the time, counter hits 50% of the time. And then basically go here and you try to press crouching medium punch on counter hit and you push crouching light punch on a regular hit. Now I'm getting way more reward off of that counter hit. And this will happen in a real match. You want to be able to get the most reward you can. So he says you should really spend some time in training mode. Really important, because if you're not doing that, you're leaving a ton of damage on the table. Okay, and then the last point in level 2 is create basic anti-character strategies. Anyways, you can just watch YouTube videos on anti-character strategies. You can try it for yourself in training mode. Just come up with anti-character strategies. Yeah, then at the end here, he just talks one more time about like, it might seem really hard to get through all this stuff, but just knock one off one at a time, and eventually with time and practice, you'll get through all of them. You'll be able to do it. Okay, last level 3. And he says this is when he was at about 2,000 MR to 2,200 or like 2,300 MR. He started focusing on this stuff. He says in this list, there's 2 things you don't have to do. He goes, the first one. He says you have to care and love for your girlfriend. He says don't do it. I didn't break up with her. He said when he was dating his girlfriend, he really often, when they were on the phone or when they were talking, he would pretend to be asleep, but he was actually doing hit confirm practice. Man was on that grind. Next level practicing. Can you imagine being on the phone just being like, I'm pretending, oh, I'm so tired, I gotta go to bed, but you're actually just like practicing your hit confirms? Cheating with Street Fighter 6? Yeah. He's about that life. I respect it. And the second thing he says, you don't need to practice too much with punishment. And he goes, this is honestly like, you can do this last with punishing. He goes, it's like the least important thing. He goes, if you can do it, that's cool, but it's really hard, so don't worry about it. Okay, then I think the video is almost over. There's only like 1 minute left. I don't think he actually goes into detail about these last points. I'll just tell you what he has in this list. So other than breaking up with your girlfriend and with punishment, which he says you don't have to do in the beginning, he says what you should focus on: fuzzy attacks, kind of like fuzzy jab, fuzzy jump. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it, because if you're not 2000 MR, he thinks you don't need to learn this. And if you are 2000 MR, you probably do know what fuzzy attacks are, so I'm not going to explain that anymore. Practice how to throw drive impact while you're in burnout. Or instead of throwing drive impact, reaction supers is really important. When you're in the neutral game and you're playing like footsies, what happens when you take plus frames, or like when you're put into a minus situation? How does your opponent act? How does your opponent move? Kind of remembering those things, kind of watch for those kind of patterns, what happens in those situations. Increase the amount of times you can do a reaction perfect parry. Really work on your anti-character strategies. And then this one here says, remember what you got hit by that caused you to lose. What can you do to create a win situation? And then if you get hit by something, what will cause you to lose? So kind of think more like risk reward and like that kind of stuff in that situation. And then last, learn how to do difficult whiff punishes. Then he says, if you have any questions about this stuff, when he's streaming live on Twitch, come over to his Twitch and check him out. Now, I'm not sure if you guys speak Japanese, but if you do, let's see if I can find his Twitch information just so I can plug him because he's really good. I'm not subscribed. Oh, no, I'm not subscribed. I'm not subbed in. I am subscribed to him. This is it. Kushina _ Street Fighter 6. So if you guys want to follow him, ask him questions live on stream, go to that video. That was really good. Watch him there. He streams live. You can watch his play, copy what he does, and just give him a shout out for making this fantastic video. I really liked it. I think this is fantastic. I think you can learn so much from this. Thank you very much, Kushina, for making this video, guys. Here's his info. Kushina on YouTube. You got his Twitch, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, is right here. Kushina LLL. Give him a follow. Say thank you for the amazing content, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you've tried this stuff or if there's anything you think maybe not he missed, but something that you've done that helped you improve your MR. Let me know in the comments. I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing from your opinions. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Happy practice. Peace.